Hey weavers, today I want to show you how to make this raven. I pin loom wove some shapes and put them together to make this cute little bird. It takes two 6-inch squares, a 2x6, and a 2-inch square, which I've already kind of folded up into the beak. So I want to talk about how to assemble this. First, you're going to take your two 6-inch squares and you're going to sew them together or whip stitch them together on 3 sides. And that leaves one side open. And then I turned it right side out. I put my 14mm eyes about an inch from each side. And now the part that can be confusing, sometimes when I'm looking at my bird, I think, oh no, I put my eyes on upside down. But you didn't really, you just need to turn it this way. And the trick is stuffing it and then folding it at a perpendicular fashion to the other angles. And this point and this point are going to come together. And that's going to make our bird. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff it first. I like to start by really filling the corner, even though the corner will be eventually rounded. I like to make sure it doesn't have an empty space. I put a fair amount of stuffing in, but I don't overstuff it. And one reason I don't want to overstuff it is because then it gives it kind of a hunched back. But when I fold it, I can still feel it's kind of empty here and empty here a little bit, so I know that I need a little bit more. Now I've woven in all the tails except for the ones right here because I'm going to use those to sew it closed. All right, this is about how much I want. And I'm going to take these tails and I'm going to weave it, sew it closed with a whip stitch. Since these are in the middle, okay, so remember, here's how it goes. Turn it to the back and I bring these center seams together. I'm just grabbing just something in the center of each, both seams. Black is really hard to see, but I'm going to try to sew these loops together. They may be offset for you, or they may align. Right now my loops are aligned. After I get this one side sewn, I'm going to go ahead and stuff this corner a little bit more. I like to pull my tail a little tight to make sure. Okay, you can see this corner is empty, so sometimes I just sneak some of this current stuffing over there. And now I have a hole right here. I'm going to put a little bit more stuffing right here, but as I sew it closed, I'll stuff it some more. So what you're going to do is finish sewing that closed, okay? So this is what your bird kind of looks like right now. I'm not going to sew it closed at the moment. I'm just going to tell you the next steps here. After I sew it closed, I like to put the tail on. As you can see, it looks like it's kind of gathered here. So let's talk about how to do that. I have sewn in one of the tails, woven in. I just have this one tail left. If I pull on this tail, it's going to pull this and then start pulling on the rows, and I don't want it to do that. So I just go around one more time at that last corner area, and that kind of locks it in and it won't pull the strand out. Now I go sew a running stitch through the loops. So down in one and up out of the other. Down in one, out the other. I'm going to do a running stitch along this whole 6-inch edge. so I can kind of create that pleat. Okay. I want this 6-inch edge to be pulled until it's about a 4-inch edge. And you can kind of resituate all of them to evenly space it if you want. Do you see how that kind of makes a natural pleated look? Okay, and if you want to lock that into place, you can again go around that little stitch. You can either make a knot or just go around it. Then I'm going to take my bird and I would lay the pleated edge on top along this edge. I'll turn this over. And I will whip stitch the tail section to the seam. So I would just go in the tail and then into the seam of the bird, and into the tail and into the seam of the bird, all along that edge. And it'll be attached nicely. So on this bird, the whip stitch is on the bottom side, so you don't really see it. Okay. Now the other big difference that you're seeing here is this bird has a really big point and this one has a sloped edge, sloped top, and a sloped belly. Let me talk about the beak real quick. So the placement of the beak, I like to kind of line up the bottom of the eye with kind of the top of the beak. And then what I like to do is use straight pins and pin the beak into place where I think it's going to go. Then I can check it out. Do I like it from the front view, from the side view? And if I don't, then I'll just readjust it. Take these pins out, readjust it, and move the beak to where I want it to be. And then I'll use the tail from the project to just kind of whip stitch around and put the beak on. Okay. And then for the rounded edge, I'll push this in, push the point in, and then pinch it closed. If I want it a little bit more rounded, I'll push it in a little bit more here. Then I just use a piece of black yarn and I'll whip stitch all along here and I'll get a nice rounded top up here. And I do the same at the bottom. I push it in and then I kind of push it in a little bit more if I want it to be more rounded. And then when you whip stitch that closed, it ends up looking like this. And here's your raven. And if you do it in white, it could be a dove. All right, happy weaving.